Welcome, Christian metal community. My name is Jimmy, and we have Jay. How you doing?
Hey, what's going on? I'm doing all right. This
All
is an
right.
interesting way to start the interview. I just finished playing for a funeral. Okay.
Okay. No, well, not a band called Funeral though, right?
Right, not it wasn't dark funeral.
Okay.
It
Just
was
just
actually
to
a
just to be
light funeral.
clear. Okay. Life. All right. Well, today we're with Shawn Browning. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Doing well. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Great. Well, it's good to have you on. This the first time to getting to talk with Shawn here in the Christian metal group. Although they have seen an appearance from Wretched in the past.
That's right.
So we'll get into a little bit about your history and as a musician and all. But start off, tell us, did you grow up in a religious home?
Uh, Not really. I mean,
Okay,
my household was certainly not anti-religion or anything like that. It was
sure.
just kind of working class family that just kind of did life and didn't really think about spiritual things all that much. My parents thought that it was important. Their concept was to take us to different churches, all Christian churches, but different denominations. So we didn't really get rooted at a church or anything. We'd go here, then we'd go there, then we'd take a week off, and we might go here, we might go there, we might take 6 weeks off. We might, it was just
Yeah,
our history with Christianity and church and spiritual things and God and Jesus and Sunday school and all that was so
sure.
sporadic. And I kind of grew up when I was younger thinking, oh, that was just really cool because I got to experience all these things. But in reality, it was probably a hindrance because we didn't, we never got rooted, and I didn't have those Christian friends. I didn't have that Christian leadership. I didn't have the people to look up to because I never got to really know anybody. It was just kids that we ended up, maybe making, popsicle stick uh, craft and then get some cookies and, little,
Yeah,
little Bible story and then on your way, And so I would say, no, I didn't really grow up in like a strong Christian home, but certainly not a family that was opposed to it.
okay. That's fair.
Love it. Well, what about music? Did you grow up in a musical home?
Um, Not. I mean, I was. I mean, from the word go,
Nice.
just I think some. I really okay. So I believe that there are people who are that love to play music. There are other people that I would say are musicians, and then there are other people who are artists. And I really believe
Mm,
that all three of those are created to be what they are, but created to be those very very separate things. I
mm-hmm.
would say that without patting myself on the back, without being egotistical, I am more of an artist than I am musician. And by that, what I mean is, I remember along the way people would play in bands and they might have some notoriety on a local level and might do really well, and then at some point they go, I grew out of it. Okay, you're just a
Mm,
dude that enjoyed playing music for a time and moved on to something else. Absolutely legitimate. Then you got the people who are musicians that go, okay, I'm going to study it, I'm going to learn it, I'm going to know the mechanics of it, I'm going to do this thing, and they get really serious about it and then might have some successes or whatever. And then again, at some point, they go, well, that was a part of my life, a part of my story. Now I'm moved on to something else. I believe that if someone who's an artist, that isn't something that you can stop doing, and you
mm,
may not even learn it. You may not even know the mechanics. You may not even have the real knowledge of how it all is all put together, but you create as an artist, and stopping creating is just not an option. I mean, telling an artist to stop creating would be like telling someone to stop breathing or stop eating or stop sleeping. Don't drink water anymore. I mean, these are
Right.
things where someone
Yeah.
who's truly an artist, and that's why I say I'm an artist, because to not do that would pretty much be death. It's not something I can stop doing and move on to something else in my life. It is, in the very fiber of who I am. And so I think from the second I can remember, that was just what I was doing. I was creating and trying to create and trying to learn it. And I didn't have formal lessons till much later, and I didn't even have that many of them. I learned a little bit, and mostly what I've learned is along the way. Mostly what I've done is trial and error. I think I've made every mistake humanly possible, musically, business wise, even artistically, and I know it's hard to say art's a mistake because, I went to the National
Right.
Art Museum in DC and I saw some art that kind of looked like a mistake, but it's
Yeah.
not,
It was a mistake.
yeah, yeah, I know. In my case, most of that stuff was a mistake. It's like
Ah,
I,
you're
I
good,
joke, I
man.
jokingly say for any album project that I do, I usually end up between 10 to 15 songs and probably throw 30 to 40 of them away because
Oh
I
Oh,
don't
man,
wow.
I don't like them. I'll
that
write it
sounds
and
like
go,
me.
ugh, that's terrible. I don't want
You know,
anybody to hear.
Miles Davis, jazz musician, and he was saying once that there are no mistakes when it comes to music.
Yeah,
And in fact, he thrived on those moments where somebody might play a wrong note, and it's like, come on, let's play on that wrong note and
yeah.
make something beautiful out of it.
Well, what's
That's good.
interesting is like I have a tendency when I write to look for. So this is a phrase that I use. It's called putting a turd on it. It's my phrase. Putting a turd on it. And
Okay.
what that is I'll be in a particular key. Say I'm in the key of, let's say we're playing in G, right? And I'll find, and again, you can't really say it's wrong. It's just maybe a chord that, okay, so I'm in G, and typically you might go G C, you might go D, maybe an A minor, you might go B minor, but I'll go, what if we put E flat suspended something, just because, instead of using, get a little technical, instead of using the E minor, what about an E flat minor? That's a little weird, but it's not wrong. It's just
Sure.
not
Different.
where you think
Yeah.
the chord would go based on the melody line or whatever. And I like writing things like that. I think for me that makes it interesting, you know. And
Nice.
a lot of times I'll go back. I still go back to the Beatles, and go back to like they
Yes.
would make decisions, musical decisions. You go, what? Who would have thought of doing that? Even
Yeah.
Dear Prudence with that descending line, it sounds absolutely correct, and it is correct, but who would have thought of that? You would have thought maybe just walking down the major scale or even walking down a minor scale. Nope, chromatic. Why chromatic? But it works and it sounds beautiful. And so I like to kind of take a song structure and then go, oh, it's too clean. We got to throw a turd on it. Let's throw something a
Nah.
little, throw something a
Yeah.
little weird. WWMDD. What would Miles Davis do? Throw that.
Yeah.
Get that on purpose. I
Yeah.
remember writing songs with my old guitar player, and he was taking a music theory class, and I wanted to do this thing where we were going to a B flat minor, and it was in we were so going to B flat isn't really all that weird from E, but when you had the minor, it gets a little, it just sounds weird, and then he was like, yeah, that's you can't really go there. You can't really go. I'm studying music theory, and you really can't go there. You really can't go there. Well, the next semester, he goes, hey, I need to apologize to you. You can absolutely go there. So
Okay.
they were teaching him
Yeah.
what to do in the first semester. Then they were teaching him, hey, guess what? Now that you know the quote unquote rules, now here's how you can break them to do something really creative. And for me, I just discovered that stuff by accident, not not because
That's
somebody
on the
taught me.
job training.
Yeah,
Yeah, just learning as you
but
go.
it would have been very helpful to have had somebody sit me down and show me that years ago.
Sure, sure.
But to
Yeah.
discover those kind of things, but now it's an inherent part of my songwriting. I just
Cool.
Nice.
automatically go, I got to break this up. This is too clean. This is too nice. It's like
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not writing Matchbox 20 songs. And I like Matchbox 20. I like
Thank
them.
God. No.
Right. Oh my God.
I like them. But that's not me.
But yeah, yeah. Well, give us a brief overview of Sean's musical journey. Like, what are you listening to at
Oh, wow.
15? What are you listening to at 25? And what got you into like the heavier stuff?
Yeah. Okay. So when I started out, it started out, okay, the first 45 I ever bought, let's go back to that. And I'm a lot older than you guys. So I
Oh,
bought, I didn't buy it. My mom bought me the 45 of Little Willie by Sweet. And to this
oh yeah.
day, yeah,
Nice.
Sweet is still one of my all-time favorite bands. And that whole 70s glam thing was my earliest
Yeah.
genre that I loved. Sweet, Slade, Mott the Hoople, T-Rex, Alice Cooper, Kiss, David Bowie,
Yes.
and all of that. And when I go back and listen to my songs now, I wasn't cognizant of aping any of that, and I wasn't even trying to. But now when I go back, I go, oh, that
Uh-huh.
guitar tone that I got right
It's all
there.
in it's all
Yeah,
in
yeah.
there.
It's part of the DNA. And so I'll go back then like, wow, that guitar really, I'd never thought of it before, but that really sounds like Mick Ronson. Well,
Mm.
how many times did I listen to David Bowie with Mick Ronson or those type of guitar tones anyway? How many times
Yeah.
did I listen to that growing up, and it just becomes a part of who you are as a player. You just gravitate toward those sounds. So that early 70s glam theatrical type thing,
Yeah.
I always loved bands that had a show rather than just stand there and stare at their feet. I'm not a stand
Ah.
there and stare at your feet kind of guy. And I'm always, I did I play in an 80s new wave review, and we had a gig outside on Saturday. It was so hot and humid, and
Oh God. Yes.
Mm.
about the second to last song, I'm like, "Brr," like swimmy head, because I can't stand still on stage. Even at the age I am, most guys get to be my age and late 50s. That's where I'm at now, and they slow down on stage. They don't move around. I can't do it. I don't know
Yeah.
how to just stand there. I just can't.
Yeah.
And I think part of that comes from growing up watching David Lee Roth in his prime, and watching
Mm-hmm.
Paul Stanley in his prime, and all these different artists that were just, they were so theatrical, and the show had so much to do with it.
Mm.
So my number one band in my early years was Kiss, and to this day
Oh yeah.
I still love Kiss. I don't love
Ha.
every song, but I love Kiss and Alice Cooper. Those were the two big ones for me. Then as far as moving into heavier stuff, certainly Black Sabbath and Judas Priest, Iron Maiden. I remember buying the first Maiden record like the week it came out, and being like,
Mm.
"What is this?" And
Yeah,
here,
that's awesome.
yeah, going from Kiss, which is we thought, well, Kiss is heavy, and then you hear
Yeah.
Black
Yeah.
It would
Sabbath, and you're
sound.
going,
Yeah.
whoa, wait a minute, it gets heavier, and then Van Halen, and so I, first Van Halen record right, I was there when it came out. I was there when the first Def Leppard record came out. I was there when Iron Maiden came out. So all of that, and then I remember Metallica and Anthrax, and getting into
Hmm.
that thrashy stuff, and it just getting heavier
Yeah.
and faster and faster and heavier and heavier. And then I kind of made a jump right there, and it was like I always liked the Ramones, but at one point it just, something clicked, and I just fell in love with the Ramones, the
Okay.
simplicity of it and the songwriting, and the kind of the goofiness of it. They could be silly and have fun with it, and I like that.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
then the opposite end of that spectrum was the Misfits, who weren't as tight at all. And they weren't tight. The songs were brilliant. They knew how to put a turd on it in their songwriting. But I don't think they knew what they were doing. I think they just thought, oh, that sounds cool. Kind of like me, like, well, that sounds cool. Now I know why it sounds cool, but back then I didn't. I just
Yeah.
did it because, ooh, that's neat. And so I think that's kind of what they did. So then punk rock became it for me, and I stayed in the punk rock lane forever. I didn't even really revisit metal per se
Oh, okay.
for at least a decade. I just didn't listen to it. Aside from old stuff that I was already into, I loved Ronnie James Dio. I loved just kind of the stuff that I grew up on.
Yeah.
Moving forward, when I kind of came back to metal per se, it was more. I think I came back to more like death and black metal. I kind of skipped
Nice.
right over everything else. And black metal was interesting to me because I liked the dichotomy of the really ugly guitars. Like, they're nasty with this beautiful
Yeah, exactly.
ethereal thing floating over the top of it. And I thought that was
Yeah,
really
yeah.
neat.
Very a lot of minor chords play really fast. A lot of
Yeah,
minor
yeah.
chords in succession
Which that's
for
cool
sure.
too, because a lot of metal bands are just playing root and fifth, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then when you get like a band like that that's strumming the full chord, or tremolo picking and all that stuff,
Right,
and then the
right.
drummer's right on top of that tremolo, and it's just, when it's done right, it's magical. And same thing with death metal. Now, when I heard, a lot of the earlier death metal stuff, I was like, okay, cool, and the stuff that wasn't quite death metal, but it was in between that thrash and death metal, like Slayer, Creator, some of the darker
Testament, maybe.
Testament, some of that darker, I guess, darker thrash,
Yeah.
because it wasn't called death metal at that point, and even the band Death, not the punk band from Detroit, but
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah,
that band, I was a latecomer to that party because I wasn't listening to that at the time. I was like full on, punk rock guy. I was in the Migraines at the time, and we were touring back and forth East Coast to West Coast the entire decade. Just, we'd come home for a couple weeks, boom, right back out on the road again for like a decade. And I was so immersed in that stuff that a lot of what was happening outside of it, I just wasn't a part of. And so, yeah, when I came back to it, the one thing that I found disappointing about metal was I thought it got really clean, like really clean. And for me, that was disappointing.
Yeah.
I remember hearing an early Whitechapel record and being, wow, that is just gnarly. And then a later
Yeah.
Whitechapel record, and it was real clean. And I was like, what? And then I realized all the bands were playing super clean. And I think that was the kind of with the advent of digital recordings and fixing everything and making it all nice and neat and tidy. And I think that's why I'm probably one of the only people on planet Earth that likes Metallica's Saint Anger record, because it's so raw. Even the guitars they're not fixed. They're not edited.
You might be the only person. I don't know. Do you like the
might
drums?
It doesn't bother me. And I think
Okay.
for years and years and years of listening to the Misfits' Evil Live, which is an atrocious sounding record, but I absolutely love it. So I kind of look past some of the production choices and just hear the velocity of that recording. When I hear Saint Anger,
I mean,
it reminds me of that Misfits Evil Live in the velocity and the passion and the aggression. So
well,
I can
I hadn't looked at it like that. Yeah. I mean, do you like Fuel and Refueled as much?
No, not at all. Like, no,
Okay.
because those albums they're too clean for me. I want
Yeah, yeah.
metal to have some dirt. I want metal to have some grit. When I listen to Black
Yeah.
Sabbath, grit. The Judas Priest records
Yeah.
I love. They're gritty. The Judas Priest
Sure.
records I don't like. Far Too Clean.
Yeah.
And I don't,
So that makes a lot of sense. So out of the
yeah.
bands that you grew up listening to, like the Sweet, Alice Cooper, would you say Iron Maiden, all these, which of those bands did you get to see live? Kiss.
Kiss multiple times, Alice Cooper a bunch of times. Let's see, out of the early ones, I never saw David Bowie, never saw Sweet, never
Ah.
saw Mott the Hoople. I did get to see Ian Hunter one time. That was kind of neat, but he
Oh,
wasn't
that's
playing
cool.
guitar; he was playing piano. It was weird. Um,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, yeah, like that's odd.
I have one of his solo albums, the one with his face on it. I can't remember the name of the album, but
Uh,
I think it's
is
got
it?
a yellow cover.
That's the one. Yeah, yeah. It was. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. See,
Um,
see, I can remember things like that, but I might not always remember the name.
right, right. Um, Trying to think who else. I don't know, but like during the '80s, I liked a lot of the '80s hair metal bands until again they got too clean. Like when it got to the
Yeah,
end of the '80s where it was real homogenized, I didn't like it. But I
yeah,
liked
yeah, yeah.
first couple LA Guns records. I loved. I loved Guns N' Roses when they came out. They were gritty. They were gritty and they were
What about
raw.
that first Slaughter album? Do you remember that one?
I think by the time Slaughter came around, I was kind of moving away from that. The bands that I liked
That
were like
was
Riot. I liked Quiet Riot, but the band Riot from Canada, that band,
yeah.
um, I
Oh
liked.
yeah, with the weird artwork.
Yeah, they had that
Yeah,
seal. They always had that
yeah.
baby seal on the. What was that all about? Odd.
I don't know. But hey, here we are talking about it. I mean,
Yeah, all right, right.
yeah,
But yeah, so like I liked even hair metal or whatever you want to call that. I
yeah,
like
yeah.
that to be a little more rough. I remember I liked the first Tesla record when it came out. I like that, but I didn't. I feel the same way about punk rock too. I mean, I don't want to
Yeah.
just say I'm beating up on metal and rock and roll, but when punk rock
No, I get it.
became
Yeah.
well, it became like what I call mall punk. Where it was just it lost the heart and the soul. It didn't have the
Is that
fire.
kind of like dad rock? Is that like
Yeah,
dad rock?
kind
Yeah,
of.
like yeah.
Yeah, kind of. But
Yeah.
I'll still defend Green Day though, even though their recordings got better and better and better. That band still, for me, still overall maintained their fire. Now, have they done some things along the way that I go, yeah, nah? Of course, of course. I mean,
Yeah.
when you have a catalog that huge, you're gonna have more hits and you're gonna have more
Sure.
misses. That's just the way it is. I would say that for my own band. I would say that for admittedly, I would say that Grave Robber doesn't always hit. I don't think we do.
Yeah, yeah.
Out of our catalog, what I love about our catalog now is our live set list. Oh, the live set list is really good. Of course it is, because you can go, well, these are the three best songs from this one. These are the three from this one. These are the three from this one. These are the three, and you can build this
Yeah.
great. You can build this great live set list. But back in the day when we only had one album, well, we'd just play that album. And some of the songs you could watch the crowd, they were like, yeah. And then the next song, not so much,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you just kind of learn what works and what doesn't work along the way. And, you know,
Yeah.
like, so when
Well,
I'm,
I'm gonna
when I'm,
I'm gonna
when I'm being critical of bands for not hitting the mark, I, I have the same criticism for myself. So,
yeah. Well, that's awesome. That reminds me, I just got the new Grave Robber CD. I'm gonna grab it real quick. I forgot about
Uh-oh.
that.
So yeah, I guess I'll ask a question while he does that. So do you have a favorite actual Grave Robber song? Like, is there one that
Here
must
it
be on the
is.
set every
Yeah.
time y'all do?
oh,
Especially
that's
like in fact,
yeah,
do you have a favorite to listen to? Do you have a favorite to play?
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah. Need to get you a copy.
Yes,
yeah.
I'm
Well,
getting
that's
one. All
that
right,
is
again.
actually we've got one newer than that even. That's Corpus Operum.
I
That is the
Yeah.
collection.
The three disc.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's everything we did for 20 years in
And
one
then you got
convenient.
Black Roses, right? Or
Black Roses is
yeah,
the new
Roxford.
EP. Yeah. So
Yeah.
getting back to Jay's question, obviously when you have the new songs, the four new ones, those are exciting because they're new. You know, will
Yeah.
those be just as exciting a year from now or 5 years from now? I can't say. I don't know, but I think we always go back to we, Army of the Dead is fun because of the crowd. If the crowd's not into it, it's not fun to play, and it's not. You know, I don't love the song for the song necessarily. I love the song for how the people interact with it. But
Yeah.
if you're playing, a show that's not well attended, they're not going to react as well, so it's not quite as fun. But the one that I like to listen to, I think Valley of Dry Bones. I've always liked that one. One that we always seem to play, Skeletons. We seem to play a lot. That's still it's still in the set. I like the real fast thrashy ones, but we're actually taking a break from the hyper speed thrashy ones this year because we've been playing them consistently for the past 5 years. So we're like, what if we just take a pivot this year and just do some of the kind of moodier ones to see how and
Yeah.
it's still working. So the next album is probably going to be more goth driven, more keyboards, more ethereal, more. It's still going to sound like Grave Robber, but just slowing things just down a tick, not much,
Yeah.
just not quite as going off the rails, more in
Yeah.
control, a more controlled tempo, a more whatever, and then more bigger, strings
Yeah. Oh yeah. Tell the guys I want to do a keyboard solo on the album. Let's go.
that would be pretty cool actually. But yeah, so doing kind of like keyboardy things, and we experimented a little bit with that, just kind of testing the waters on Black Roses to see what the response would be, and the response has been overwhelming. I mean, I can't believe it. I thought we'd have people going, "No, I want you to be just a nasty punk rock band." We haven't heard anybody say, "I hate this new record." There's been people that say, "Well, I still kind of like the old stuff, but this has enough of that old stuff feel in it." And then it's not that we're taking anything away, we're just adding something to it and getting more. The one thing we took away was the woes. We didn't do a whole lot of woe parts on the EP, and that was a criticism that we heard. Every song's got woes in it. Well, yeah, because the whole reason for those parts is I was trying to write campfire songs. I want these to be something that you can hear it one time
And remember it.
you can sing
Yeah.
along immediately. I want people
Nice.
who've never seen Grave Robber to show up and feel like they're a part of it. We
Yeah.
always said that the four guys on stage are not the band. We're all the band. The whole audience and us, it's all one big band, and we're all
I
singing
love
those
that.
whole parts together.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
that's. I mean, the Grave Robber is not even who the Grave Robber is. I mean, you guys, it would be obvious to you two, but a lot of people don't realize the Grave Robber is not the band. The Grave Robber is Jesus.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
the members of the band that play the instruments, we consider the audience to be in the band with us. So
That's
I
cool.
want some kind of vocal thing. They don't have to learn the words. They can just dive right in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the whole point.
Yeah, I want to
Yeah, that's
clarify something real quick, just as far as so when I first heard the name Grave Robber, I can't remember. At this point, I can't remember where it might have been.
Jay thought it was you thought it was a monster truck. What do you,
But yeah, like no, immediately, of course, when I saw your name, the name of the
Yeah.
band, I thought about the Petra song.
Yeah, yeah.
Grave
That's
Robber.
that's literally where we got our name.
Okay.
No, that's it.
oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah. I got saved at a Petra concert in '85. That was
Oh, awesome.
Beat the System tour, and that song Grave Robbers on that album. And
Okay.
I've got a lot of favorite Petra songs, but that's one of them. And I always thought lyrically, now let's be honest, guys. Let's be honest. Let's
They
be
aren't the
raw and honest.
That's what we're here for.
We're gonna pull the curtain back on the wizard here, okay? Petra's got a lot of cheesy songs.
Yes.
Yes, but they got a lot of great ones too.
We're not supposed to say that. We're supposed to say
Yeah.
that every Petra song is the best thing that's ever happened. But come on.
But that would not be honest. That would not be honest
Let's
if we
be
said every
honest.
song. Yeah.
But Grave Robber is not one of their cheesy songs. It's
Yeah.
well crafted. The lyrics
Sure.
are incredible to that song. And I thought, so when we were looking for a name, we were tossing around every name we came up with was stupid, the graveyard something or the whatever. And all of a sudden I thought, hey, wait a minute. What about, remember that Petra song, Grave Robber? That would be a cool name. And it's what it fits the ministry aspect of the band. If it's all, I mean, it's just a perfect name for what we are. Yeah.
It fits well. Yeah.
But
Jay, when you telling me
you were absolutely right to think of that song, because that's literally where we got our name. And I live in Fort Wayne, which is the home of Petra. That's where Petra started. I play in another band.
Okay.
Yeah. I play in another band with the original bass player, John DeGroff.
With John, yes.
I'm
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, Greg Hogue is a chiropractor here in town. Still plays a ton of music. He plays jazz. He plays blues. He's got,
that's awesome.
Yeah, he plays in a band with the 3 of the original Petra guys.
Yeah, and
so he's
all these Petra guys are going to be at Immortal Fest, so I'm looking forward to that.
That's right.
Yeah, I saw them on their 50th anniversary tour. Was the first time I've ever seen them, and I'm telling you, it was still great. Now, I wasn't pleased with the 2 opening acts were not good, but Petra, it made Petra look much better. And
yeah,
and at Immortal Fest.
GHF,
at
the original guys, it's like you're being transported back to like 1969, 70, and that's what it is. So expect that. If you expect Petra as you remember them, that's not what GHF is. GHF is literally like a 60s original Christian rock band. I mean, that's what they are. And
that's going to be cool.
If you go in expecting that, you'll enjoy it a lot. But it's not Petra.
Because like if you think about Petra when they first started with that first album with Wake Up and Backsliding Blues, that was
right.
That was my favorite songs from that album. So go ahead, Jimmy.
I'm looking forward to seeing them at Immortal Fest. You were talking about they're playing 3 different versions. They're playing every single night. They're headlining every night, which is kind of weird, but it's all 3 different versions of the band. So
the old school, the 80s, and then beyond,
and then the new,
So that song, that Petra song in particular, and yes, they've got some really cheesy songs, but they've also got some songs that were so impactful to me that if I'm in a situation, those lyrics still come back to me. I'm like, what was that? It may not be straight scripture, but it's the concept of what is the biblical concept? Oh, there's that Petra song. Same thing with the Altar Boys. What's that scriptural concept? And those 2 bands in particular still resonate in my brain. And still help.
That's good.
Still help me to this day.
Jay, when you telling me your Jay's favorite, he said his favorite Grave Robber song is "Go to the Graveyard," right? Is that what you said?
You know what? I actually think that
we covered it. We covered it live.
You did?
Yeah, we did. We did a whole set. So we played one year. We played at.
I just love that both of you knew what I was talking about. Yeah, that just makes me happy.
That's a great record, man. I can't deny that record.
Yeah,
that's a lot of
the
fun.
first one is great. The second one, I'm not a fan.
I mean, you know what? I think they could have done that glam thing, but what ruined that second record for me was that the guitar tone was so thin. They needed to go the opposite direction, a heavier guitar tone, a thicker guitar
I,
tone, then that glam thing would have worked. Because if you go back even to the David Bowie stuff, the guitars were always big.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
I'll tell you who transitioned to the glam and made it work was Squad 50. I
100%.
I didn't I wasn't a huge fan when I first heard it, but the more I listened to it, I'm like, I love this out. And they're one of those bands like I like
Absolutely.
everything they've done,
Hmm.
and they unfortunately they just played their last show in Augusta, Georgia, and I did not get to
Oh,
go. But
Mm,
I saw them about 3 or 4 years ago, and they opened up for Five Iron Frenzy in Atlanta, and they killed it. Like
I
it
bet.
was
oh
so
yeah.
good. He was like, I might be old, but you're old too now. You better get that pit going. It was
Oh,
awesome.
dude, I
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
I saw them at Cornerstone a few times. Like so,
yeah,
Yeah,
it was over 20 years ago at this point.
so
yeah.
much energy. Just a really good band. So, well, that's awesome. So, Shawn, give us a kind of a timeline of your musical career. I mean, however you want to look at that. I know
Okay.
you've had Rottweiler Records and Grave Robber,
Yeah.
and how did all that come about?
So I always played, as soon as I could. We started out, especially in this area, because there wasn't really much of an original music scene. In
Okay,
about 90 or 91, I started the Migraines, started doing originals. People that did originals around this area would do originals, but they would pepper them into their cover band sets. Now, we weren't the
okay,
first band to do all originals, but the Migraines were arguably the first band to do all originals and go, we're just not going to play covers unless we decide we want to throw in a
and
cover at
and
the
this
end
was
of the
a
set or something. Yeah,
it was a
and
punk
so
band. The Migraines
yeah,
was a punk band.
yeah, and
Okay,
and we just got lucky and hit right when that second wave of punk was starting to happen, and we're oh well that worked out. And then we got signed to a record label, started touring, toured all through the United States, and toward the end of that, I started really feeling like the Lord was pulling on me, and at some point I'm like I can't do this anymore. I remember being down in Fort Walton Beach, Florida, and looking out the crowd. And I wrote a lot of silly songs. They were just dumb, silly songs. And these kids were like, "Yeah, yeah, like that's the way to be." And I'm like, "No, no, no, no. I'm joking. This isn't supposed to be taken seriously." But they thought I was
sure.
being serious. And I played up that whole, angsty, mad at the world. And I wasn't. But it was all just
Yeah,
supposed to be a big goof. But when I saw that, like I can't do this anymore. And so came
yeah.
home from that jaunt, uh, essentially broke the band up, and then there was a time period where I was meeting a bunch of Christian bands were coming through town, and that was like the heyday, the '90s heyday of Tooth and Nail.
Yeah.
And
Uh huh.
the Huntingtons were coming through, and I became friends with those guys, and then I decided to put a Christian band together. And Cliffy said, you should just call it the Migraines because everybody knows you as Eddie Migraine. Edward's my middle name. Everybody knows you as Eddie Migraine. Everybody knows that
Yeah,
band.
that's
You
pretty
should just,
cool.
in the long run, I think he gave me bad advice. I
Oh,
should have just
oh,
named
really?
it something else. Yeah,
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
seeing
because
the
there was a lot of
migraine
confusion.
advertisements
Yeah,
in
there was
ATM.
a sonic change as well as a philosophical change, and so I should have called it something. But, whatever. I mean, hey, whatever. And so during that second wave of the Migraines came Grave Robber at the same time. And we sent a package to Matt Hunt at Retroactive Records with some really well put together Migraines promo, and at the last minute, I took this throwaway project, Grave Robber, and threw it in the envelope, with a note saying, "Hey,
Oh, wow.
if you get squirrely, check this out too." And he calls me up like about a week later and says, "Well, I'm not real interested in the Migraines. It's just it's not what I'm interested in. But this Grave Robber project, that you got something here." I'm like, "Really?"
Wow.
Because we thought that band would be together for about 6 months, and then we just did it and didn't think of it
Yeah.
lasting. I mean, and that would have been like 2004, well, 2007, I think. And
Okay.
long story short, we got signed to Retroactive Records, and then the migraines just kind of ran its course, and that was the end of that.
Sure.
And so then Grave Robber took off, and we started touring. Next thing you know, we're in Canada. Next thing you know, we're in Mexico. Next thing you know, we're in California. Next thing you know, we're going up and down the East Coast. Next thing you know, we're all over the
That's
Midwest.
cool.
Yeah, and it just kind of I've never planned anything with Grave Robber. I've been as hands off the wheel as I can be.
It's just as natural, just happened. Yeah.
Yeah, just let it take its course. I mean, I'm I got to a point, and I'm still at that point where I'm not trying to make it, quote unquote.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to enjoy the ride, and wherever the path leads is where the path leads. You know, if I
Sure.
wake up tomorrow and suddenly the whole world hates my band and God goes, "All right, you're done," then I'm done. If I wake up tomorrow
Yeah.
morning and Universal Records is pounding my door, then okay, I'll go through that door too. If none of that happens, then we just keep going until till one of us falls down and breaks a hip. You know,
Yeah.
we just kind of keep going, and it's not. We're very, very serious about the ministry aspect of it. We're very serious about being
Sure.
the best band that we can be. We're not serious about trying to climb any kind of ladder and become something.
Sure.
What it is
Yeah.
what it is. So we just want to be, and again, that goes back to being an artist. Not, I'm going to be a musician and make lots of money. No, I'm going to be
Yeah.
an artist and create. So that's
Sure.
it's a servant mentality. It's also a creative outlet. So, and whatever that means when you put those two together, however God wants to use it is however God wants to use it. Apart from that,
That's
just
good. Yeah.
And
apart
it's
from that, it's
interesting.
just forward motion. Just
It's
forward
interesting
motion.
you say that too, because I was actually just about to talk about just the whole ministry versus industry type of thing. A lot of musicians, I think I saw something, maybe one of my friends posted the other day just about, and they were talking about musicians that play, actually it was talking about musicians that play in churches for money. And, I've had, I guess, as one that's also been in the industry, like the Christian music industry for a while, I've had these conversations with different artists about playing music for money versus for ministry. And some people feel like they can't coexist, of course. And then some people feel like, they can, of course, they can coexist. And then also you have the people that feel like everything should be free, even though it costs so much money to record. It costs so much money to do a stage show, to get costumes,
Yes.
to tour. Oh my God! Like gas is high. It's going down a little bit finally, but gas is high. Equipment is high. Transportation, vans. You know what I'm saying? Just all that stuff is high, and people a lot of times.
And then they don't factor in the 10,000 hours to master something. They don't
Yes,
factor in
that. Oh,
strings.
God.
In your case, sticks, drum heads.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just all
kinds of
maintaining
stuff.
gear, time away from families, all of that. I mean,
Yeah,
it is a sacrifice. It is.
Sure. Yeah.
To me, it does feel sacrificial a lot of the time. But it's not a sacrifice like somebody's sticking needles underneath my fingernails and forcing me to do
Right.
this. It's not
Right.
that kind of sacrifice. But there are times when I go and I play a show and it's a wonderful show. It's great. Everything was perfect. Got treated well. They fed us. We made a bunch of money in merch and everything was wonderful. And then I get home and discover that my wife and my kids did something together as a family and I wasn't a part of it.
Oh wow.
Yeah. That's
You know?
hard.
And-
Yeah.
but what are they supposed to do? Sit home and wait for me? Of course not.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
I don't
It's
want
supposed to
that.
come with you, man. No, let me stop.
Yeah. No, I want, I mean, they can't sit around and wait for their artist
Exactly.
dad to be available. They have to, yeah. And so, but it does feel a lot of times like I miss out on things, and I try not
Yeah.
to. I try to balance that. You know, with Grave Robber, we just don't do holidays. We just don't. I mean,
That's
if
good.
there is a holiday we do, it's, you can probably guess the one that we do. But
Easter.
we don't do holidays in that band. I've got a cover band that gets paid pretty well for what we do, and that one we have to balance out. Like, we played on the 4th of July, but that was a conversation. You know, that was, you know,
Yeah.
talk to my wife and go, look, if you give it a thumbs down, then thumbs down is the answer, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with
Always,
I'm
absolutely.
Sure.
okay with not doing it, but we could use the money, so hey, here's an opportunity. You know,
Right.
and so it's always a conversation. But going back to getting paid to do ministry, when it's a rock band, no, no, pay that rock band. You know, that's a rock band. You know, yes, rock bands can have a ministry, but let's be honest: does God really need another rock and roll band? Not really.
Right.
Not-
Right.
I'm doing this for the Lord. No, you're not. You're doing it. You know, okay. Can you feel a calling? Certainly. But
Absolutely.
God doesn't need your rock band. You know.
Right.
Now,
Right.
worship in church. Now, this is where I think it can get a little sticky. Should a musician get paid to play in church? I am a kind of a hypocrite in this because I've gotten paid to play at church. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But here's what
Yeah.
I'll say about that. I don't believe, and you might disagree, and that's okay. And it wouldn't even be a point
Oh,
of
this is a
contention.
great discussion. So I'm
It,
here
it
for it.
wouldn't be
Yeah.
a point of contention if you disagreed. If you disagreed, then that's fine. I believe that a musician who plays at church should not be thinking about the money.
That's
I
good.
think,
Yeah.
I think, and that's hard to do if you know that the money's there, right? So, as a musician, you should go, I am doing this because it's absolutely my calling. I'm doing this because I have a certain, you know, I have an incredible desire to serve, and I want to be there. I want to lead God's people in the worship of King Jesus. I want to be, yeah, I've got the, it's such an overwhelming pull to do it that if I didn't do it, I feel like I'd burst into flames. I have to go and play worship in church. And then when it's over, some guy walks up to me, or guy or lady walks up to me and goes, "Oh, here's the envelope with your pay." And I go, "Oh, I'd forgotten about that." But that's a wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful blessing.
So it's
right?
it comes down to your motive, right? Your motive.
I think so.
Your
Yeah.
heart. Yeah.
But is it wrong to get paid to do that? Absolutely not. I mean, I think it's an absolute
No.
blessing
Yeah.
that somebody would give you cash for doing that.
Right.
I served at a church where I was the worship leader for years and years and years, and they told me, "Well, we're going to pay you." I didn't ask how much. I just went,
Right.
"Well,
Yeah.
you don't have to do that." No, but we want to because we want to bless the people that we have here. And I'm like, well,
Sure.
if that is if that's your motive, then I'm going to tell you, my motive is to not get that. My motive is to facilitate the worship, God's people, and worship the best that I can, to the best of my abilities. That's my motive. That's your motive, and we meet in the middle when you hand me that check, and I'm not doing it to get that check, and you're not giving me that check out of an impure motive, so that works. So that's where I
That's
stand
good.
on it. I don't think it's
Dude,
wrong to get
that
paid
is
at
a
all.
great thing.
Yeah,
That is a
I think
great
it's
thing.
wrong if that's your motive. Like,
Right.
I've met guys like that.
Oh, I
You know,
know you have.
I want to make that. I'm thinking to myself, well, I don't know what you got paid to play in church. I didn't get paid enough for the headaches. I mean,
Yeah.
did the envelope maybe kind of smooth out some of the headaches? Maybe a little.
Yeah.
But I wasn't doing it for the money because it wasn't like, okay, you know what was great about the paycheck? That I could take my family out to eat after church,
Yes.
or I could pay a bill with it, or keep the phone on, or things like that, right? That was cool, but it wasn't paying a mortgage, or it didn't buy a sports car with it. You know, it's just it was a nice blessing, and so it wasn't the forefront of my motivation to doing worship, and I haven't gotten paid to do worship for, geez, I don't know, what's it been, 15,
Wow.
16 years or so.
Yeah.
But our church is very, very tiny. We meet in my
Of
living room,
course,
and I,
yes.
I strum an acoustic
Oh
guitar, and
wow.
I don't even get paid to pastor. So it's only there's just a
Yeah.
handful of us. Why do I don't? Come on.
Right, exactly. Yeah, let me just take all your money. Let's take it all.
Yeah,
No,
Yeah.
this is interesting because, of course, I am a person that I've been paid probably for church work for the last almost 30 years now.
wow.
Like,
Yeah,
so it's interesting, and of course,
Dang,
now,
Jay, you old.
I know I'm old, dude. I'm super old. Now I did start off really young. My first
Yeah.
job that I
yeah,
had playing at a church. Like now, and then of course there was also a couple breaks in between there, and I started before 30 years ago. But I got my
sure.
first church job when I was 12. I made like $50
Oh
a week
wow.
at this church,
Nice.
and I
Yeah.
saved up
Hey,
enough
fifty
money to
dollars
buy.
at 12. That's like
Yeah, exactly, dude.
That's
you
Yeah,
have
so I
made
was
it.
big money.
yeah, so I saved up enough money to get it to buy a car by the time I was 15.
Oh,
So
that's cool.
that was pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Nice.
But
Yeah, yeah,
through
yeah.
the years, of course, I started on piano. Of course, I also switched to drums. So now, like I do a lot per week, and I work at three different churches, and I also, I basically consider myself a ministry partner. And one of
Sure,
the churches I do get paid a lot of money, but the demands are a lot more. So the other
sure.
two, well, actually, one of the other two churches demands are almost just as much, but I get significantly less. And then another church, the demands aren't
Yeah,
as much, and I don't get that much money. And I do. I also, um, even though I get paid to be a musician, I also am on the ministry staff at all the churches, and I do a lot of volunteer work at all the churches. So it's not like I'm just coming in like, yeah, give me money for everything.
Yeah.
Now, I try to find a way to be a ministry partner with, every
yeah,
church, and then
yeah,
also every, because my biggest thing right now is like evangelism and trying to find ways to,
yeah.
be Christ-like in our communities. And there's like three
Sure.
different sections of town that each church represents to, like, the demographic and all that stuff. So it's really crazy, but also working at various churches around the city. So, it becomes interesting. But somebody was asking me the
That's a
other
different
day.
heart though. That's what I'm talking about. That's a different. The guys who are doing it for money show up right before it's time to play, and as soon as they get the
Yeah,
check, they're out the door. You know who they
that's
are.
yeah,
They show
absolutely.
themselves. They don't go, hey, how can I stick around and help? Or hey, what do you got going on through the week that I can be a part of that I can help? It's a whole different heart, a whole different mindset. Now
Yeah,
let me ask you a question.
yeah.
Has it have you ever had I'm gonna ask you to incriminate yourself here.
Let's go.
Maybe not. Maybe it's not. Have you ever had those moments throughout those 30 years
Hmm.
where your sights got off of Jesus and onto the paycheck? And by that I mean like
Oh yeah.
where you're just like it's hard to balance to balance it properly. To say, okay, suddenly I'm worried, and of course when that happens, right?
Hmm.
When you're broke,
Hmm.
you're going,
Yeah.
oh, I just got to make it to Sunday and get that get that envelope.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's hard. And I thank you for being honest with that because I certainly have.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think that most people, one of the biggest things, like this is like almost another area of topic, but if you think about like bands, and this is like marriages even, they say that like the biggest disagreements and the biggest divorces, and that could be band, it
So
could be marriage or whatever, it could be artist on a record label, definitely come from finances. Like,
yeah,
there,
yeah.
there can be infidelity, and a lot of people get through that. And a lot of people get through sin. But finances, like for some reason,
facts. Don't take
you
my
draw the
$5.
line.
That's true though. But that's true.
Yeah, yeah,
But
it
yeah,
is.
so and I think that for me, just like you, and this is something else we're gonna get into in a second, because I had a big question about this. But um, when you decide to like, because I had a record label for a while, it was just me and a few other artists that we were all like close knit. We never like signed people, but um, when we had our little record label, um, we ran a lot of stuff. It was like basically it was six people that ran it, but it ended up being three that ran the gospel division. And we started touring, and until I quit, like we had a really good business. But I think the biggest thing on my mind, of course, at the time was just like, yo, we're literally employing a whole team of musicians, sound people, singers, and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and they all have families. We're taking them away from their families and stuff. We have to make sure that, you know what I'm saying, that there's
Right.
enough money to make sure that they get taken care of, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
that was definitely my focus. But yeah, there were definitely times when I was like, yeah, I've had to chase down some pastors for money,
Ah, that's
Yeah.
terrible.
and just all kind of stuff, man. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, but that just reminds me. I know with you, um, you like I said, there's just so many ways to approach all this. But you've
Yeah.
also you're a pastor. You know, we were just talking
Hmm.
about this.
Yeah.
So, and you also have been a label head.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
and I know, like I said, I was just saying, like, my aim was always to take care of people when it came to the record label stuff. And like I said, I think that's why we were
Yeah.
successful. And, you know, even if we got back out there, that would still be my thing. But
Yeah.
with you doing all these roles and stuff, did you approach running Rottweiler Records and even managing tours and stuff like that in the same way you did pastoring?
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, I did, and it's interesting that you asked that because that's exactly what we did, and it
That's
came
good.
from a place where um, my experiences. I didn't want other bands to have to go through what I went through
Hmm.
to learn what I learned. So there was a lot of uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Mentoring
Hmm.
spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of mentoring,
Yes.
not musically not like music theory, but
Right. Yep.
mentoring like how to do a band. Because
Hmm.
there's a lot of
Sure.
people in bands that don't know how to do a band, or
Yeah,
how to
that's very
rehearse.
true.
How do you rehearse properly? Well, first of all, don't show up to practice, show up to
Not knowing you.
rehearse.
Yes,
Practice at
exactly.
home,
Mm.
then
Yes.
rehearse when we get together.
Yeah.
Don't
Oh
waste my
man, that's
time.
good.
Yeah.
It's good advice,
So
young bands.
yeah, yeah. So things like that, for sure. And we had a private page on Facebook that was like a private Rottweiler prayer page. If somebody on the label
Oh,
was
that's cool.
going through something they didn't want public, they could
Yeah.
jump on there and go, "Hey guys, this is what I'm dealing with," and all the other band members would go, "Great," and they'd start praying for each other and things like that.
Hmm.
There were there were still some guys that just don't want to share their struggles, and okay, that's fine. Nobody
Yeah.
was
Sure.
forced to do it, but it was available. Of course, I'm always available, and you know, just about every band would call me at some point. Hey, this is going on, or that's going on, or how do I maneuver through this, or what do I do with this? And I just found out that my bass player smokes dope, and what am I going to do?
Hmm.
Just found out that our drummer's been cheating on his wife. What do we do? Hey, I just found out
Mm.
that my guitar player's gay. What do we do? And it just those kind of scenarios are just that's it's a real world, and people don't
Oh
think that.
God, yeah.
Sure.
I've
Oh, the
seen
Christian,
all these happen.
yeah,
Yeah.
Christians,
Right.
they do it all
Right.
together. No, 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 no. They don't. They don't. I'm a pastor. I don't got it all together. What are you talking about? I preach things every Sunday that kick my own butt. Are you kidding me?
Yep.
Right. Well,
Absolutely.
Turns
that's
out
what a
that
pastor's supposed to do.
That's right.
sometimes I go, hey guys, I'm going to stomp on my own toes for the next 45 minutes. If you want to listen in, feel free. You know,
Ah.
It's- you know what
Yeah.
I mean? And so that same approach was like, look, this is a real world. It's a broken planet. I get that. The only difference between you and any other rock band is you're proclaiming Jesus as king. That's it. That's the only difference. Now there should be some moral differences for sure. There should
Yes.
be some behavioral differences for sure. I'm not saying there
Yeah.
shouldn't. What I'm saying is when it really comes down to it, we all kind of play in the same park. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
some
Yeah.
of us, are in the sandbox, some of us are on the slide, some of us are on the swings, but we're in the same park, and that same park has the same. Okay, let me say it like this: Jesus owns it all. But for some reason, in his infinite wisdom, he chose to employ a really, really horrendous property manager called the Enemy, whose name
Yeah.
is Accuser. And that's the property manager. That's the guy that's running things, right? And so
Yeah.
so those things, like all those issues that people are dealing with in Christian bands, are, it's like you're not immune to those kind of issues just because you're proclaiming Jesus on stage. You're not
And you're
immune
also
to,
not alone, not immune or
right, right,
alone, right?
right.
Right.
And so that was the difference with Rottweiler. And the reason it was named Rottweiler is I had a Rottweiler named Vader, and that he was
Oh.
the most loving, beautiful soul. I mean, if dogs have souls, I don't know if they do. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. But he was. But he was. I know, I've heard all kinds of debates. But he was just so gentle and caring and loving. And he just knew when I was having a bad day, and he'd come over and put his head on my
Oh,
knee
wow.
and just lay there and look up at me, like as if to say, "It's going to be all right," And that
Yeah,
dog.
yeah.
But if somebody came to the door and knocked a little too hard, he
Yeah.
became a protector. And so I thought, I want to run a record label with that attitude. I want to care for people and protect them as best I can, as best that they'll let me. And that's what Rottweiler
Yeah.
was all about. Yeah.
Well,
It was
how
also,
so? How did Rottweiler get started? And I presume it was after Grave Robber formed as a
no,
band. You started it. That was, or how
kind
did
of,
that happen?
kind of during, because of, and in spite of.
Oh,
We were
okay.
we were signed to a label, and then before the record even came out, things just didn't work out. It was just a conflict between the record label owner and myself, and just a butting of heads. It wasn't. And we're friends now. Everything's fine. It's not any.
Sure.
It was a secular label owned by a Christian guy, and we would have been the only Christian band on the label. But so it's not none of the big Christian labels that you know of. It was none of them, and things didn't work
Yeah.
out. We left out on tour with no record, no nothing, and I was all bummed out. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Why should I be on tour
Yeah.
with no record? That's dumb. And all of a sudden, it was just like it dropped into my spirit. Like, well, you do it. What do you mean me do it? I
Oh,
don't want
wow.
to do it. Like almost everything the Lord's ever directed me to do, I've said, I don't want to do that. I want to go to Nineveh. But so I didn't want to do it. But then
Yeah.
he reminded me that all around me were all the things I needed. There's a recording studio. There was, record label, or I mean, not record label, but like radio pushers. There was artists to do physical artwork. All these things were there, and I didn't know the first thing about running a label. And immediately, I met a
Sure.
guy named Dave Coleman from CLG Music and Media from Nashville, who
Okay.
basically took me under his wing and taught me everything he knows, or probably 90% of what he knows. And and next thing I know, people are talking about Rottweiler in the same breath as Solid State and Face Down, and
Yes,
in the
sir.
same,
Wow. Yeah.
Yes,
which
sir.
is crazy
That's
because
awesome.
we didn't have a staff. It was me. There's no staff.
Yes,
There's no.
exactly.
There's just
Yeah.
one guy sitting at a laptop. I mean, that's. But one of the things that we decided right away was not only we're going to protect our artists and make sure that they're not bound by some kind of crazy legal thing. Every artist on the label, I'm like, look, this is a artist friendly contract. Communicate with me. Talk to me. If you're unhappy, talk to me. There were bands I let go before their contract was up. And like they came and talked to me. We talked it out. Like, I don't want people to be miserable. Go do your thing.
Yeah.
Especially,
That's good.
there was, at least 3 bands that one of them very, very high profile band that walked away from their faith. And there was 2 other ones that were like, yeah, we just don't feel the same way we felt when we signed the contract. And I'm like,
Oh, wow.
then go, then go. Then
So
go.
you basically were running a label on integrity. That's what it sounds
Imagine
like.
that.
I know, right? What a concept.
I know.
You
Well,
you
and
you you revolutionized the music industry.
how do I want to be treated? You know,
Yeah.
Sure.
if I was miserable on a record label, I would hope I could go to the guy who owns it and goes, I'm miserable. Can I get out of here? Can I leave this? Because
Yeah.
this sucks. This is
Yeah.
not what I was expecting. No, I had the opposite, where there were bands who were like, this is a godsend. This is a blessing. This is exactly what I'm looking for. You know, it
Yeah.
all just comes down to expectations and what people are looking for, and some
I
people have
mean,
different expectations.
I know a band that personally that broke up to get out of a contract. I mean, they were on
Oh,
signed to
for
tooth and
sure.
nail, like yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's more than one, but I know one personally. So what was the first band that you actually signed?
Well, my own.
Well,
Uh,
outside of
yeah.
that,
Beyond that was Behold the Kingdom. We did a show with them, and
okay,
they were like, remember I said death metal to me, like it started becoming
yeah, yeah,
homogenized. They were like almost deathcore, but not quite core. They just weren't
okay,
quite core because I got tired of deathcore. I like death metal. They were
yeah,
more death metal, but they just had something. To this day, I can't put a finger on it. When I saw them live and when they heard the recordings, I was like, this is different. So different was always something for me. And I don't know if everybody agrees that all the bands I signed had something different, but I was always looking for, okay, this fits in this box, but yet it doesn't really fit in that box. You know, that's what I was always
uh,
looking for. A band had to have something unique, something different, something that set them apart. And yeah, and so Behold the Kingdom, that was from the get go. I want something.
yeah,
I don't want some band to go, okay, we're a metal band, so let's just ape whatever. Let's just sound like Megadeth or whatever. I didn't want that. I wanted artists who were doing something creative and something different. Even 13 minutes, right?
Yeah.
As radio friendly as they are, as
mm-hmm,
commercial. You know, Jamie told me right away, he goes, this is going to be commercial. Okay, be commercial, but give me something new. There's your challenge. Don't give me something. Don't just be the letter black. We already have the letter black. Don't be
right,
disciple. We already
right,
have disciple. Are you going to be better than disciple at what they do? Not a chance, right? No
yeah,
way. Who's going to be better than
yeah,
disciple at what they do? Nobody. There's other bands that do sound like disciple, but nobody's ever as good as them. There's no way.
shout out to Chaotic Resemblance.
Right.
Well, but even chaotic to
I
me
mean,
doesn't sound like this.
not
And
exact, not exactly. You're right.
no,
They're
no, they
different,
kind of do.
but
Their mo is kind of the same,
Right.
but
They're like in the same
sure,
genre, subgenre.
yeah, but I would say this for chaotic resemblance, right? I saw those guys when they were like 15, when they were
right.
barely
So young,
launched,
yeah,
and they were trying to be straight off the Sunset Strip. But guess what? They weren't. I was around during that time period. I know what that sounds and looks like.
Yeah.
That wasn't it. What they were doing, they were teasing their hair big and wearing eyeliner and
Wow.
trying to dress like Nikki Sixx and all this. And they had the look, but musically they still sounded modern. So it was a blend of modern and 80s. They had that mid 80s swagger, but they definitely had a modern take on it. So guess what? That becomes something new because I'd never seen 80s glam with a modern something, you know.
Right.
But that's
yeah,
they didn't grow up in the 80s. They grew up in that early 2000s era. That's what they sounded like, but with this 80s flavor. So that's a great example of uh, the kind of artist that I was looking for. Yeah, in fact, I even approached them at one point,
yeah,
but they were shooting for something much bigger, which that's fine. You know, I would have loved to have had them. That would have been great. You know, but
yeah.
they did what they did, and
Well,
they
it's
still doing it and still doing it extremely well. I'm proud of those guys.
well, they're what's the singer? It's not Travis. What's his name? It
Travis,
starts with a T.
No, it's
Is it a
Travis.
Travis? It is
Yeah,
Travis.
yeah,
Yeah, Travis started Chaotic when he was in middle school, and Kevin
yeah.
started Disciple when he was in middle school. So, I mean, there
There you
is a
go.
lot of comparisons there too, outside
Yeah,
of
yeah,
just the
yeah,
sound. But
Right.
yeah.
that's cool. So how long did you run Rottweiler, and what led to the exit?
T- 10 years. 10 years. I think I just woke up one day and went, I've taken this as far as I can take it, and
Yeah.
I looked at the bands. I'm like, man, there's some good bands on here. You know,
Mm,
was every band I signed a success? No. Some of the bands I went, they got something. Let's develop that. Let's
yeah,
let's let's see what we can do with this. Like a mad
sure.
scientist or something. Let's
But
working in my
that's
lab.
fun.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's a lot
Oh,
of fun though.
to
Yeah,
see a band develop is, I'll tell you,
yeah.
Symphony of Heaven. If you've not heard their last
Oh
record,
yeah.
Oh, we interviewed. Yes,
holy cow! Yeah, that was a band that was a
so
development
good.
thing. Yeah, oh gosh,
Okay.
they kill, right? So, where was I at with this? Oh, so I'd taken the label as far as I thought I could take it, and I thought I just I don't have the bandwidth. I'm only one guy. I've only ever been one guy. This is it. This is the end of the road. And so along the same time, Gyrus was kind of getting Mythic Panda up and running and kind of getting a
Yeah.
foothold with
Hmm.
that. And I just kind of looked across, and there he was, and went, I wonder if that guy would be interested. And so I just called him up, and we
Mm,
worked out a deal, and I he acquired it, and he's doing what
there it
he's doing.
is.
And to be honest with you, I don't know what he's doing. I don't follow it. I mean, I know it
No.
sounds bad. I don't. I don't follow. I don't have the emotional tie to it at this point. That doesn't mean I have ill feelings, or I don't. I mean, I hope
Yeah.
that he takes it much further than I could have taken it. I hope that, some of the bands stayed, some of the bands left. He signed new
Sure.
bands. He's got a different viewpoint of ministry. Part of his ministry is he wants to engage with secular bands, which I never
Yeah.
did. And he wants to bring secular bands on board and kind of minister to those bands on the label. Okay, I that wasn't part of my vision, but that's part of his vision, and he owns it
Sure.
now, so he gets to he
Ah,
gets
Yeah. Do what he
to
needs.
yeah, he gets to do whatever he wants to do, and he also gets to answer for that if he makes a bad decision. Not, and I'm not saying that to suggest he is making a bad decision. I'm
oh,
saying
yeah,
that
yeah.
that is just that's one of the differences, and I think he certainly has a different vision than what I had. Doesn't mean it's bad, just different.
That makes sense. Awesome. Well, Jay, what else you got?
Let's see. I think oh, you know what? This is one thing. I mean, I think we've kind of covered everything I wanted to cover, but I will say this. I know that just back to grave robber, but even more so, thinking about like horror imagery and stuff like that. There's a situation now. One thing that I've always done, I think a lot of us as musicians and church leaders do, is mentor people,
Mm,
especially like kids and stuff like that. Lately, I have like started to really be more hands on with mentoring. I guess just well, I've been working with a lot of kids overall, but of course, sometimes those kids are like in my family. So I have a
mm,
niece right now that I'm like I said, I'm just kind of like a lot more hands on her now than I ever have been. So she, because I've been traveling and doing all that other kind of stuff, I hadn't been around as much. So it's been like a couple of years, but now that we're like, just around each other more, like one thing that has become interesting, she's like 9, about to be 10, actually in a few days. And she's kind of gotten into like horror imagery. Her favorite thing right now is Chucky. She loves Chucky.
mm.
And yeah, she loves she loves Chucky, and I think she even went to some little school function like dressed as the bride of Chucky or whatever. So anyway, I thought it was obviously I thought it was really cool or whatever, but I think that at a young age, kids might not understand like a lot of the horror imagery as much as some of us do as
Correct.
adults. And even though like obviously we also even grew up with doing like or even as adults like listen to like a lot of Christian music that has horror imagery in it or whatever.
Hmm.
But what would be your approach, or what advice would you give to people that have kids that what I'm saying, that like maybe kind of gravitating towards that, especially right
Mm,
now, and that you just get 10 and
Yeah.
11, get into teenage years,
that's
start.
good. That's a good question.
You know what I'm saying? You
That's a good question.
start to gravitate towards that stuff, and how can you use, like, a lot of times we use horror imagery as artists, and we try to give it a spiritual meaning, but like
Sure.
what alternatives can we give kids, and also
Yeah.
yeah, how would you approach that kind of situation?
I okay, so it's interesting that you bring this up because I just had that same conversation 2 weekends ago with a couple who came to our show, and they
Hmm.
said that it was a bar show, so they couldn't bring their kids anyway, and they were like, "Yeah, we would have loved to have brought our kids, but they can't get in because it's 21." Even though the bar was in front and then the back was like a hall with no bar in it, this place could have easily done an all ages show just by shutting the door, but they chose not to for whatever reason. And they said we would love to bring our kids, but the other thing is our kids are really young. They asked me directly. They said, "Do you think that Grave Robber is appropriate for kids?" I said my first answer is no. If I were a parent, I would not take my kids to see Grave Robber if they were little kids. Now, there's lots of families that show up with little kids. I've seen
Yeah.
babies, 1 year olds, 2 year olds, 3 year olds, 5 year olds. You know, I, as a parent, would not take my kids to see Grave Robber at that age. But I also understand that every family has to make those decisions for themselves and look at the maturity level of each individual kid, how they've raised them. Now, I say I wouldn't take little kids to a Grave Robber show, but being in Grave Robber, my kids were around the costumes and the props. My daughter, when she was real little, used to take the big skeleton gloves that Richard has, put them on, and they would go up to her shoulder, and she'd run around the house with them on. And
Oh, that's awesome.
try to scare me. And I go, "Oh, you scared me," and
Yeah.
and they grew up. My kids grew up understanding that all of that was purely just fantasy. It's not
Right.
real. But I taught them about real monsters. I taught them
Yeah.
about the evil in men's hearts. I taught them about
Right.
Sure. Yeah.
those kind of things. I taught them about what demons really are, disembodied spirits, not something you see in a movie that goes, "Arr," that's not a demon. I mean, a demon's going to try to get you to think something that's beautiful that God says is ugly. That's a demon. So I taught them
Right.
the reality of those things. So it's different. But I would say to most families, I wouldn't bring a little kid to a Grave Robber show. Not that we're going to do
Yeah.
anything that's going to traumatize them, but just the visual itself and the volume and
Well,
the
but when
aggression.
you say little kid though, like I agree it is mature level as each individual kid, but are
Yeah.
you saying like under 10, under 15? Like when you say little kid, like what in your mind, what is that? What do you think that
I,
is?
I mean, like, probably 9 or 10 down. I probably wouldn't bring them.
Yeah.
But again, I've met some little kids that just absolutely adore Grave Robber. They rush right to the stage and they're standing there the whole time wanting, like with their arms like this, wanting to hug me while I'm like, raging doing the rock and roll and they're, and
But
everything,
but
and they're trying to
but
hug me.
that's I think I mean I have four kids and my two oldest are 10 and 12. I would not have a problem bringing them to a Grave Robber show. I
No,
hope
10
I
and
can
12,
get
probably not.
I I hope I can do that one day soon. But
Yeah, yeah,
uh I mean, but look at the alternative. I mean, they could be taking them to a ghost show, as we were talking about,
Or
or
war show.
or 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 Guar show. I mean, right?
yeah.
Or who knows? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
uh, so that I guess when you look at it like that, it's like it.
yeah,
I think people that know the lyrics are going to feel safe enough taking their
I
kids.
think so. I think so. But I think so. That's that part of the answer. But I think, Jay, your question is, as Christians, how do we deal with horror imagery? So
Right.
I think I upset somebody the other day, and I found this. I thought it was funny. Most of what I post on the Grave Robber page is comedic, I think,
Yeah.
most of the time. And there was a happy Fourth of July, killing it since 1776, and it had
Right, right.
all the major horror characters all dressed in red, white, and blue, and
Yeah.
moving sparklers and whatnot, you know. And I thought it was really funny because I've got that sense of humor. And somebody sent me a message privately and said, "Brother, those characters are evil." And I'm like,
People get offended so fast.
Hold up, hold up. You just said characters. They're characters in
Right.
stories. They're stories. Back in the day, we used to, before TV, before cars, before cell phones, we would sit around a campfire and we would tell stories, and there would be a good guy and a bad guy. And we tell a
That's true.
story, and it's a morality play, and good triumphs evil. And historically, it's only been within the past 10 years that they've made movies where evil wins. And even if evil would win in a movie, they would have part two would come out and evil would lose, right? And so, taking the whole story to context, it's a morality play between good and evil. You got to have a bad guy and you got to have a good guy, and these are just the bad guys. I mean, it's like Star Wars. Nobody, if you put up Darth Vader, nobody ever goes, "Listen, brother, that's an evil character. You don't want to be putting that up on your page." You know, no one ever says that. You know, or we could probably think of other movies where it's not a monster face, but it's just not a nice guy, not a good guy. And you know what I'm saying? So to me, those horror movie characters are just characters in a story. In a this is our modern version of storytelling is cinema, and you have the bad guys. And generally speaking, if you hover above the story and kind of figure out what is this really about,
Yeah.
like for instance, George Romero, right? Day of the Dead, or not Day of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, all,
Dawn of the
all the
Dead.
above.
Yeah.
Night of the Living Dead, et cetera, et
Night of
cetera.
the Living Dead was about racism.
Yeah.
It had a deeper meaning, right?
Yeah. And
Who's the
consumerism.
Right.
hero? Who's the hero in that movie? The black guy, right?
Yeah.
He's the one that saves them all. And they arguably the first black hero ever to save a bunch of white people. In
Oh,
cinema.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah, right. So what
Okay.
was George Romero saying in that movie, right?
Yeah.
Day of the Dead. It takes place in a mall, and all
Mall,
the
yeah.
zombies are walking around the mall. Hey, you ever been to a mall? All the zombies are
Yeah.
still walking around the
All the-
mall.
That's
And
right.
so it was
To
about
this day, that's
consumerism.
why I'm not there. That's right.
And it was all about consumerism, right? So
Yeah.
in a lot of now, is that every horror movie? No, some movies are just
Yeah.
gore porn, and I don't watch that kind of stuff. I don't watch
Yeah.
if it's just torturing people for the sake of torturing or killing for the sake of killing. I'm not interested. I want to see.
Yeah. Same.
I want to see the
Yeah.
rise and fall of the bad guy. I want to see the bad guy
Yeah.
lose. That's why I don't like Paranormal Activity, even though I wrote a song called Paranormal Activity. I don't like those movies because the demons win in every movie. And I don't like those movies. I don't watch them anymore. I don't watch Saw started out great, this whodunit kind of Alfred Hitchcock thing, and then turned into, well, we're just going to do torture porn.
Right.
Nope.
Right.
Yeah.
Pass. Not interested. Because there is no good story to that.
Well,
You know,
that's what
so-
sells, though. You know. So that's
Yeah,
that's
but for
why
me,
they.
for me,
wha-
yeah,
Yeah.
for me, it's got to be a
I'm
story.
with you.
So I go back to the
I agree.
Bible. I go back to the Bible, and we just covered this yesterday, right? Jesus orders these demons into a bunch of pigs, and the pigs run off and into the water, right? You hear that story, right? So what's a demon? It's a disembodied spirit. Demons don't have a body; they have to occupy a body. That's what a demon
That's
is,
funny.
right?
I
Demons
just heard a
don't
sermon
have
about that
bodies.
Saturday.
Right. And a lot of people
Somebody
don't,
just preached
because
a
of
sermon.
Hollywood, people think the demons are these creatures. No, they're spirits.
Right.
So Jesus cast them into the pigs, and the pigs go and run into the water. You know what the water was about? A lot of people don't know this. When was the first time that demons got disembodied? The flood.
Oh.
the spirits of the Nephilim. Suddenly the Nephilim died. Where did the spirits go? Disembodied,
Yeah.
right? So the pigs run into the water. Guess what? What was Jesus doing? He's reminding them, guess what? You got disembodied again. And I will keep doing that. And I will keep on you. And I will always triumph over you. You will always lose, right? So the story should be, in a good horror film, should always be Jesus is king. And he will always triumph over everything that you try to accomplish.
Yep.
Right?
Wow.
Any bad thing you try to accomplish, any bad thing the enemy tries to accomplish, any demonic thing is going to fall in answer to Jesus Christ. Every demonic entity is going to bow before Jesus and claim that he is king.
That's good.
Right?
You almost sound like a preacher. I mean, it's,
Right.
But so to me, those images, and I get it. Hollywood has taken the conceptualized thing and blown it so far out of proportion. So again, demons, right? I've had people say, grave robber looks like demons. Like, we don't look anything like demons. You can see right through a demon. They're disembodied spirits. What does one look like?
Well, I always ask people, because this comes up a lot in our group. Not a lot, but occasionally. And my always question is, what does a demon sound like, and what does a demon look like? Have you seen one? Like, what is that?
Right.
And the comment, like the last time this happened, I can't even remember what band it was, but they basically were like, well, I'm not playing your game. Basically saying, I'm not going to talk to you and discuss this. And I'm like, all I did was ask a simple question.
I'm not playing your game. What do you mean? The game you started, you're not going to play? Okay.
Right.
I think one thing I always do, I always refer people back to two scriptures about like what God sounds like, because I think a lot of times when people think of what God sounds like too often, way too often, honestly, they go to the book of First Kings when Elijah was hiding in the mountain, and he heard that he thought it was the Lord was in the earthquake, thought it was in the storm and stuff, and he ended up coming as a still small voice. And then all of a sudden people think that the voice of God is always a still small voice. And I tell people in the group, like whenever this discussion comes up, no, the voice of the Lord, first of all, he a lot of times he screams at me like, dude, like, what the hell are you doing? You know what I'm saying? Like that. But also, if you think about, like, I would say two scriptures I always refer people to are Exodus 21, verse 1, and also Revelation 1, like verse 2 or whatever. The first one says that when God talks to the children of Israel and gives them the Ten Commandments, that's Exodus 20, it's in thunderings and lightning. So that's the voice of God. Then also, and then you go to Revelation 1, and when Jesus is speaking, it's the voice of many waters. I'm like, it sounds like death metal to me. Like, like.
Have you ever visited not a small one, I mean like a massive waterfall?
Yeah.
That is loud.
Yeah.
Many
Very
waters.
loud.
That is many waters. That's loud.
That's right.
And the other one is, what about Acts? Right? In Pentecost when the wind.
Oh yes, absolutely. The mighty rushing wind.
Right. That would be like a jet airplane. Right? Like a jet engine.
Wow, yeah.
I mean, that's loud. And have you ever been in I was in Hurricane Gene, and we were inside the building, and it sounded like the wind was blowing through the room inside the building. Loud. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so no, does God speak in a still small voice? Certainly. But he also speaks loud.
Yes,
and then when you talk about volume, let's go to, I know you know where I'm going with this one. Let's go to Psalm 100.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know about
149 or 50.
I don't know about any clashing cymbals that aren't that are quiet.
And it's a loud sounding cymbals. Loud.
Well, what does the word clashing mean? I mean, it's not like you're not playing a triangle here.
No.
No.
That's so
And
good.
so I just, but I also am sensitive, having said all of that, I'm also sensitive to people that just don't appreciate that kind of art or whatever. You know, it's like there's some people that like Frost Like Ashes, and there are other people that like John Denver.
Or Sandy
We don't
Patty.
like those people. Oh my
But you
gosh.
know what? But
I'll
you know
take
what I'm saying. You know, it's like so.
I'll take
it's-
Frost Like Ashes over both of those.
Yeah.
Well,
Hey,
that's
by the way, if
awesome.
you ever want a great interview, you should interview Mike Larson. I'm sure he's got a lot to say.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
He's one of my
hey,
best friends. Yeah.
That's
connect us,
awesome.
man. We'd love to. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
That we did interview Nick from Frost Like Ashes, but
Oh, there you go.
we
Yeah,
definitely
Nick's awesome. Yeah,
but
I
no,
love that guy.
we'd love to interview him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
who is Shawn Browning when you're not on stage? What do you do? So I got a couple questions. What do you do for a living? What's your hobbies? And then what's something about Shawn that fans watching this may not know?
I I'm the most boring guy ever. I don't do anything.
Come on now.
I'm a real estate agent, and
He
I actually
really
really
is a
love
real
that.
estate agent.
And again, I don't even approach real estate as got to get that paycheck. I approach it
Yeah.
as helping people, and if I chase helping people, then dollars chase me. That's so.
100%. Yep.
Yeah, and I
Yep,
love those
that's
kind
awesome.
of jobs. Like with Jay, Jay serving in the church. Clearly, Jay's
Mm-hmm.
not chasing dollars; he's chasing the task at hand, and then at the end of the week or when 2 weeks or however they do it, like okay, here you go, and
Yeah.
I
Right.
just did my calling and enjoyed my life, and I get
Right,
magic
and
money.
go
That's
provide for your
fantastic.
That's right.
It's a beautiful thing. Praise
Yeah,
God.
yeah. So
That's right.
that's what I do for an income. What I do for a hobby is music and art. I mean, that's it. I mean, like, but when I'm not doing that, I like getting away from things. I like being in the midst of all the chaos and mixing it up. But I also like getting away and going fishing and being out in the woods. And
Yeah.
one of my favorite things is when any of the bands that I'm in travel. I like to. I love it. I don't listen to music when I drive generally. I like the sound of the wheels. I like to roll the window down, hear the wind, and experience, like driving up into Wisconsin's got some beautiful areas, and you drive through those areas, and driving down in Tennessee and through Kentucky and Ohio, and believe it or not, even Indiana's got some beautiful areas.
Yeah, for sure.
So do you think in your career have you played in all 50 states?
Not all.
You ever thought about- Okay.
Never been to Alaska. Never been to Hawaii.
You didn't drive to Hawaii?
No. I gotta go
the
really fast to pull that off.
well the underground tunnel,
Yeah,
Right.
I've never been up in the top of the Northeast, like Maine, that area.
Okay, way up there.
Never
Yeah.
been up there either.
Okay. Did you ever play in Canada?
Yes.
Okay. Mexico?
Yes.
Oh, definitely Mexico.
Wow.
Multiple.
That's
times.
pretty awesome. How are the fans? No, this is something I've asked a few Brazilian bands. How are the fans in Mexico, like at a
Crazy.
concert?
Yeah.
They're
Insane,
crazy.
right?
Mexico
Yeah,
has
they're
a
nuts.
Like-
great Robert Pauling for sure.
Yeah.
They get it because their culture has the sugar skulls and
Oh,
all that
right,
stuff.
right.
So they get that the imagery to them, a sugar skull does not represent death.
Sure.
So when I stand on stage as Wretched in character, and I say, we always have a translator, of course, but when I say in character that we didn't come here to represent death, we came here to represent life and the celebration of life and the coming from
Yeah.
death into real, true spiritual life. They erupt because they get it. They know, they understand it,
Yeah,
and which
yeah.
is
That's good.
I say that in the United States, and we go, huh?
Yeah. Right. But so you are currently in ministry outside of the band. You're a pastor still.
Yeah.
Is that right? And a
Yes.
worship leader? You
Yeah.
are the church?
Well, I mean,
You-
I,
yeah.
we got a worship leader. I play guitar because we don't. There's only like five.
Oh,
or six,
gotcha.
Tiny.
Okay.
little church. We
Yeah,
had like
yeah.
75 before COVID, and COVID wiped us out, and it is what it is.
So I read one time that every member of Grave Robber was in ministry. Is that still the case? Because I know y'all have had some changeovers over the years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
either our bass player is a worship leader, I'm a pastor. Our guitar player is the head of tech at, I guess you would call it a mega church, and so he's like the tech, does all their video creation, runs sound, anything to do with tech. He's the guy that maintains their in-ear monitor system and anything to do with tech.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's awesome, man. So you definitely stay busy.
Yes.
So
Yeah, yeah. I'm never retiring from real estate. I
yeah,
don't have any plans to retire. I didn't make any plans when I was younger, so I don't really have the choice. But I've seen people that retire and then they die after a couple of years. They just
you're right.
stop.
Yeah.
And for
How
me,
how long have you been in that industry?
10 years.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yep. So for me, everything's forward motion. People ask me like, how do you
Sure.
do all that? Just keep moving forward. Just
Yeah,
keep
I
moving
get it.
forward, and my wife and I like to find a TV show to binge and we'll sit down and watch a
Sure.
few episodes a day or whatever. It's not like I don't ever sit down, but I'm always I'm always moving forward. I've always got something that's moving forward, something trying to improve something, trying to learn something. You know,
Yeah.
Love it.
That's awesome.
Well, cool. Well, what is your favorite thing about being a Christian?
my favorite thing about being a Christian is that I don't have to worry, even though I do. I don't have to.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I mean the Jesus has never let me down, not once. And whenever I read in His Word what it says, well, look at that, it happened. Never let me down, not once, not once. Maybe not on my timeline, maybe not the way I wanted it, but He's never let me
Right.
down. So I've learned over the past, well, probably 5 years. Took me a while to get there, but over the past 5 years, I've learned that if He says it, it's going to happen, and I don't have to worry about it. Things will look grim. Sometimes you're in the boat and there's a storm, and you want to wake Him up and saying, "Why aren't you taking care of this?" And He wakes up and looks at you like, "Who said I wasn't taking care of it? I was
Right.
taking care of it." And so, but I've learned that I don't have to worry. I don't have to have dread. Even if something bad happens, He ordains it. You know.
Mm,
So,
that's
I
right.
mean, I don't believe in coincidence. I think it's all orchestrated. I think He's at the helm of it. I think that I think we certainly can make bad choices and have to deal with the fallout from our bad choices. I'm not saying I make a bad choice and that's His fault. I'm saying that
Right.
when circumstances happen in life that are not our control, and it looks grim or it looks bad, it's like it might be for our benefit. It might not be a bad thing at all.
Mm,
You know, and I've learned not to let worry get the best of me. We'll put it that way.
yeah.
Nice. Love it.
Good deal. Well, what can the Christian metal community do to help Grave Robber?
Send us lots of money. No, I'm kidding.
Ah,
What, what can they do to help? I think talking about us is good. Even questioning. What does this mean? What is this? What is this about? What does this mean? Talking about us. Of course, financial support is always great. We've never asked people to give us money. Like there have been bands that used those money raising platforms for, hey, give us free money. No, we've never done that. We've always,
GoFundMe. Uh huh.
yeah, those kind of things.
Yeah.
We've always come up
Okay.
with things that like, okay, here's a package. If you can buy these 5 CDs together at a discounted rate, you can get this T-shirt and these CDs. You can get blah blah blah. Put these packages
Yeah.
together and then support us when we put out a new record. But that's been a while. We haven't done that for a while. But I think just any kind of supporting, any kind of support you can imagine. Like obviously the obvious one is prayerfully. letting us know that we've had an impact, because we don't know sometimes. We're more seed sowers than we are harvesters. So we don't always get to see, every once in a while somebody will say, you know what? I mean, I've had these messages. Somebody said, you know what? I chose Grave Robber to be the soundtrack to my suicide. But all of a sudden
Oh
I
my
heard you
gosh.
say something and they stopped. I've had that happen four
Wow.
times. Four times.
4 times. That's
Somebody did not
incredible.
end their life because they were listening to Grave Robber. And
That is
that, to me,
incredible.
that's phenomenal. I've had other people say, "You made me think about Christianity, and now I'm a Christian." We've had that a handful of times, but for the most part, we don't get to hear those stories because we're the band that comes in, throws the seeds on the ground, and we may not even get to water it. And some other band comes along and harvests it, and that's fine. I mean, that's our position on the field, and that's good, and that's fine, and I fully accept that. But it would be nice to
Yeah.
hear, if we've if we've had a positive impact on people. So hearing that is encouraging, and I think, but that's true for any band. Just encourage bands, buy their stuff, go see, get up off the couch and go see them when they're in your town. I've had people beg me to come to their town. We come and they don't show up. And they were like,
Oh
"Where were
wow.
you?" "Oh, I just didn't feel like going out that night." Dude, you know how much effort it took for us to come to your town because of
Right?
you? You asked us to come. And we took a chance that there might be other people there. And guess what? A bunch of other people did show up and you didn't. And of course,
Yeah. No, that's
I got to
fair.
I got to pick on them when they do that. And that happens.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll choose it to go play a city because one person said, "You guys never come here, and I really want you to come here."
How come you
Okay,
don't come play in Greenville, South Carolina?
I
Ha!
hate that because we hate that place. No, we don't hate that place. Actually,
Wow.
we used to play Greenville once or twice a year. At one point, we
Yeah.
played the what's the name of that place?
It was the channel back in the day, maybe?
Yes, the
Oh,
Channel.
okay. Yeah, I
Yep,
know
I
the
love.
owner. I
What's that?
somehow I said I know the guy that used to own it. It's no longer
Yeah.
around.
Was
It
it?
was
What was
only
his
it was
name?
only around about 5 years. Jay, his name
Jay.
was Jay. Yeah.
Yes,
Uh,
yes, 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 yes. And
he
we
had
played.
he it moved locations like 3 times or something, but it's no
Yeah,
longer around now.
yeah, yeah. We
Uh,
played one time when it was upstairs,
yep,
that
that
building
was
downtown,
downtown.
and
Hmm.
we had this can. Somebody gave us a can of baked beans.
Oh,
I don't know
what?
why. And so we took a marker and we just decorated it and did a bunch of goofy stuff on it, and it sat on our merch table. We used to always put it out there just because it was such a dumb, goofy thing. People, what's the baked beans about? I'm like, well, if you don't know, I'm not going to tell you. But there was no reason, no reason. Well,
Oh,
one night
gotcha.
we were at that place at the Channel, and there was this little like young girl. She's like 14 or 15, and she's like, "I want a free T-shirt." I go, "You can't have a free T-shirt, but I'll tell you what. If you can eat this entire can of beans in the time it takes for us to play our fastest, shortest song on stage tonight, I will give you a free T-shirt." And I was going to give her a free T-shirt
What?
anyway. But so
Yeah.
we made her. We opened it up. It had been, in our merch box for like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years probably, and
Oh my God.
we
No.
opened it up, and she just stood on the stage right next to me, chugging these
Oh
big
my
music,
goodness,
and
that's
they're going
crazy.
all over her face, all over her shirt, and of course I'm dying laughing, the audience is dying laughing, and
That's a
anyways, we
very
ended up
metal
giving her
moment.
giving. Yeah, I know. So we did give her a T-shirt. She grabs the T-shirt and goes, "My mom's here," and runs out the door. So she's covered in
Oh my
hands.
gosh.
Can you imagine being her mom? Like she's holding this grave robber T-shirt with baked beans. What did those people do to you?
Yeah, she
But
thought it was
anyway,
a, she thought it was a
I
bar
told you
show.
that. I told you that band was evil.
yeah.
She thought it was
Well,
a
the
bar
funny
show.
thing is, so
Right.
last year there was a podcast where I don't know the guy's name, but he's some wrestler guy that I guess is kind of popular in underground wrestling. I don't follow it, and he's gay, and so, but he. The only reason I'm saying that is because he makes a big deal about the fact that I'm a gay wrestler. Okay,
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
cares?
Or whatever.
There's
Yeah.
probably a lot more than just you, buddy.
Yeah.
Anyway, and so anyway, apparently he was in the audience at that show, and he told that story. But he told the story like, those guys were so gimmicky. They had this gimmick, and then they made this girl eat this poor little girl. And they were like shoving beans down her throat and made her do it. And they were so gimmicky, and I'm like, listen, Pot, are you trying to call the kettle black? You're a professional wrestler. Your whole thing is gimmicky. What are you talking about?
That is hilarious, right? Look in the mirror, bro. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, man,
the fact that you got to push your sexuality, make a point of it. Like you just made your sexuality part of your gimmick, and you're worried about what we're doing.
Okay. So every time you get on stage now, you got to say, I'm a white straight male. Every time you I'm a black straight male. You got to tell everybody, right? I mean,
so what kind of music do you play? Oh, we used to say that we're a horror band. Then we had to say we're a Christian horror band. Oh, we're actually a heterosexual Christian horror band. Come on, where does it end? You know what, Jay? Billy Joel, Saint Billy Joel said it best. It's still rock and roll to me. It's all rock.
I love it.
Just call it rock and roll and be done with it.
That's perfect right there. That's awesome, man. Well, thanks for your time. This has been great, man.
It was a lot of fun.
Looking forward to hearing. I know you got the Black Roses out. Y'all go check that out on Bandcamp, wherever music's sold. So thank you.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Much love, yo. Much love.